What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm going to go over this Razor dune buggy that I put a Predator 79 on. Please autofocus. And just like if you saw my last video with this bike, I'm going to show you what I did to do this so you guys can do it too. But yeah, this is just, you've probably seen these before, but it's just a Razor, they call it a dune buggy, at least on Amazon. I searched it up, but this, for context, yeah, this used to be electric, and it had a really big shroud on the back. So what I did was, I'll put an image on screen now. You can see how it usually looks. But yeah, you just take that shroud off, and there'll be a motor right about here, I believe, and a bunch of plates and stuff. But yeah, this right here used to be the battery bracket, so it'd hold the battery, I believe, and then the motor would be, I think, right here. But all I had to do was just cut out basically everything you can see, just down to the frame. And then I bought this sprocket off of Amazon. I forgot how many teeth it is. I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Okay, I think it's about 36 teeth. I kind of forgot, but just got a 36 tooth sprocket from Amazon and threw it on there. It was very hard to get on there, so probably don't get the one I got. I think it was like a 7/8 bore or something. I actually don't know how thick this rod is. I'm gonna go check really quick. Okay, I actually don't have my tape measure, so I'm not gonna check that. But yeah, I'm not sure what this thickness is, but it's like around 7/8, something like that. You'll have to measure for yourself if you have this Kart. But basically what the problem was is this sprocket had way too small of a hole to fit on the shaft, and it took a very long time to make it big enough. The keyhole is somewhere on there, but it's not visible anymore because I welded it, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the keyhole in there would work with this sprocket if you get the right sprocket, obviously. But the keyhole that was originally there for the old sprocket, which everything has to come off because the stock sprocket is, the teeth are too small because this is a 35 chain. But anyways, what I was getting at is you can mesh this sprocket with the keyhole that's there. But the reason why it's welded here is because when I did that, the torque from the engine kind of wore it out, and it started to be able to have some play like this, and it was very uncomfortable to ride, so I just welded it on. But that's a permanent fix. You don't have to do that, but I just had to because of my circumstances. And because I had to take out this large plate, the brakes also had to get a new plate. So what I did is I just bolted this, I think it's 1/8" steel here, all the way across, and then just mounted the caliper here. And you can see I just have the brake disc right there, and it's regular key slot. As you can see, I also have that welded. You don't have to weld it, I'm just saying, because the for me, the screws to connect the disc to the hub were missing, so I had to weld it. I do not recommend that though, because you could warp the disc, so just throwing it out there. Another big thing I had to do was, since the engine has to be mounted so far out to avoid hitting the frame here, I had to actually slide this axle forward and drill another hole here, because these are the 2 bolts for the wheel bearing. I had to actually, this is the original, I had to slide it up one and drill a new hole, because if this was in its original spot, this chain would rub on this frame way too much, so I had to move it forward just so it'd fit. And for the engine mount, as you can see, it's completely custom. This is actually, you can see there used to be a handle on there, because this is the head to, like, I think it's a manual edger. It's like a shovel, but the blade's completely flat. And that's perfect because I could use it as a makeshift engine mount. So I just mounted the motor to the plate and then bolted it to the frame right here, and it works great. I haven't had any issues with it. And setting up the throttle is basically just like any other bike or go-kart that you have. I just have the throttle cable right here, and I have it on a thumb throttle. Just got rid of the old one here because there used to be an old thumb throttle for the electric motor, but I just put my cable here and I can throttle up just like that. Another thing to add is that since this axle is completely solid and it doesn't have a differential because it's just chain drive, it basically locks the two rear tires together. So in a turn, this thing really doesn't have much torque and it would wear out the tires faster. So what I did, which is pretty janky but it works, was since each of these tires has its own key, I just disconnected the key in one of the tires and only used one wheel drive, and it actually works pretty well. It lets it turn easier, and yes, I know it's very janky, but it works, okay? And for the kill switch, I just hooked up this generic switch right here, and the reason I put it on the side of the cart is because it just wasn't long enough. But again, this is like, if you're just doing a regular build, this would be obvious, but I'm just throwing it out there. And here's another angle of the motor mount. As you can see, it's just bolts from the hardware store holding it in, because when I originally built this, I did not have a welder. I would have just welded it, but I don't know if you can see, but that's the underside. Sorry, I could not tell if that was recording it correctly, but if it did, then that's good. Also, since the motor is mounted so far back, it is super light in the front. I can actually lift it with my pinky very easily because the motor's like more than halfway off the edge. But yeah, I believe that is it. If you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments, please. I love reading them. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.